Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our Sunday Assembly for October 30th, 2022. Whether this is one of the first times you've been with us here, either in the building or online, or you've been with us many, many times, we are delighted that you're here as part of our gathered community. For you folks online, we hope you'll check in with each other on the chat feature, see how everybody's doing this morning. And for everyone, whenever and wherever you watch the Sunday Assembly online, please remember to like and subscribe. For those of you in the building, we hope you will join us downstairs in the lower assembly hall for our mini meal today, Grandpa's Goulash and savory squash bowl featuring mock duck stroganoff. At 12:15 in the Dietrich today, please plan to come and meet and chat with the FUS Board of Trustees. Learn how and what they're thinking about governance here in our congregation and ask questions. Learn what this kind of service means to them. Think of some really hard questions, George is looking forward to that, right? Yeah, okay, good. You'll hear more about this later, but I want to give a shout out to the the vote folks, especially a hearty thanks to Anita Martinez, Jenna Hutchison, and Erica Bovey, who helped coordinate this, and many of you who participated. Now, here's the important thing to know. If you took letters and postcards home, you need to do two things. One is count them and let one of the coordinators or me know how many you did. And two, get them in the mail ASAP. Like they should go out in tomorrow morning's mail, okay? All right, now here's another thing. Through United Theological Seminary, First Unitarian Society is participating in a survey organized by an organization called Convergence. And Convergence helps congregations assess and navigate the transition into the post-COVID future. The results of this survey will inform our equity efforts in this coming year, and we are hoping for very broad participation of people in our congregation, both in the building and online. And so in the Friday email, there was a link to this survey. It takes about 10-15 minutes to fill out. I would ask you to fill that out at your very earliest convenience. Now, here's the important thing to know. Most congregations that Convergence works with have a more traditional theology. They work with Christian and Jewish congregations mostly. So you may need to do a little translating into our humanist concepts. I asked you to try not to get turned off by any of the language that you see there and just keep going with that. On November 12th, we will have a strategic planning session for our equity efforts. Who do we want to be as an inclusive congregation in the coming years? That information is also in the Friday email. Hello. And if you have any questions about it, please ask me. I'll be asking you to RSVP in the coming week. Our theme this month is courage, and you may know that people who practice neo-paganism look forward this week to Samhain, the cross-quarter day when the veil is said to be thin between this world and other worlds. The fall in neo-paganism is associated with water. The autumn is associated with water. And I love this poem by Irene Young, The Mermaid Knows. A mermaid dives deep. She is not afraid of what may be buried at the bottom of her fluid heart. She is not frozen in fear, watching from the dunes. Instead, a mermaid swims the waters where she bathes in her own self-love. To be a sea maid, one must breathe with the wisdom that freedom is not walking the shore, but touching bottom with faith that one rebounds to fresh waters, through open eyes with clear lungs, a willing heart, and new skin to breathe out the old and in the daring. A mermaid knows memory is both a chain that binds and a key that frees, and the truth that heals, in the name of the Mother, the Daughter, and the Holy Self. Amen. Come, let us gather in community.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm very excited for the first time to share some of the solo repertoire that I do here. Most of you know me because I accompany the Chalice Choir, and I've been playing several times with them, and this day I have the opportunity to share some of my solo repertoire. When thinking about the theme of this month, which is courage, and thinking which pieces of music could better portray that, I thought of these three pieces that I'm going to play. The first one is part of a larger work, a sonata for piano by Brahms, and I'm going to play the scherzo. In a way, as soon as I heard, courage, and I was going through my repertoire, that's the first thing that came to mind because of its character, its inner strength, its energy. Definitely think that this piece portrays what courage means to me in an abstract concept. But then I was left with the task of the other two pieces, and so I wanted to be a little more subjective about it. And it really struck me when hearing Reverend Breeden talks in the past 2 Sundays where I performed here. Well, it was mentioned that courage is not only, what we understand as an abstract concept, as, being courageous in certain adverse situations or whatever, but it's also admitting our own weakness, our own, lack of strength. And this is exactly where the second piece that I'm going to perform, a slow mazurka by Polish composer Frédéric Chopin, is exactly why I chose this piece. To me, that is the courage to say, I feel sad, I feel in a certain way defeated, and I think that requires a great amount of courage as well. Now, in opposition to that, I also think that it requires a big amount of courage to be happy. And that's where the third piece comes on, which is the Joyous Island by the French composer Claude Debussy. And definitely, if they ask me about a happy piece, I cannot think but of the Joyous Island by Claude Debussy. So I hope you will enjoy all three pieces, and thank you again for having me.
amazing and amazing. Thank you so much. Wow, for sharing your gift. The lights up here, we don't know what's wrong with those. There are gremlins wandering around, and as you can see, you don't just get a stepladder and work on those. So we're not quite sure what's up with that, but we are working on it, and sorry, we're not gaslighting you, so relax. You're not going insane, for this anyway. Each week when we gather, we light our chalice with one of our 8 principles, or one of our aspirations from First Unitarian Society. Today, our first aspiration, we aspire to live joyfully and ethically in loving, reverent relationship with humanity and nature.
All right, so it's time to sing. We sing now together number 67 in the Gray Song book. So please stand as you wish, and the words will also be on the screen. We sing now together our song of thanksgiving, rejoicing in goods which the ages have wrought, for life that enfolds us and helps and heals and holds us and leads beyond the goals which our forebears once sought. We sing of the freedoms which martyrs and heroes have won by their labor, their sorrow, their pain, the oppressed befriending, our ampler hopes defending. Their death becomes a triumph, they died not in vain. We sing of the prophets, the teachers, the dreamers, designers, creators, and workers and seers, our own lives expanding, our gratitude commanding. Their deeds have made immortal their days and their years. We sing of community now in the making, in every far continent, region, and land, with those of all races, all times and names and places. We pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand.
And if you will remain standing, please, and repeat with me our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. Please be seated. A little reminder that next week, yes, the time changes, fall back. And I know that's often depressing for people, so we're going to make it a little better because it's going to be Cinnamon Roll Sunday. Yeah. So come get those cinnamon rolls. Yes, First Unitarian Society exists because of the generosity and time, talent, and treasure of our members and friends. This congregation is independently funded and democratically governed, as you will discover at 12:15 today when we talk to the board. One way you can help us is by going on social media and liking, forwarding, whatever that particular little platform does. None of what we do is cost-free. We need your help to keep our congregation healthy. The easiest way to give is to go to our website, firstunitarian.org, and click on the Give link at the upper right corner. You can also go to PayPal, Venco, you can send in a check, or you can stop by the office after assembly today, and we will help you out. Thanks so much for making the work of First Unitarian Society possible. As an independently run organization, One of the things we do is take care of each other and watch out for each other's backs. We freely search for truth and meaning here, and we work for justice here and in the wider world. So it is that on Sundays, when we're gathered as a community, we take a few moments to reflect on the joys, sorrows, and milestones of the human experience. We do this to remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness, and we're reminded to stay in touch with our own humanity. We are here for each other. Many of you were here yesterday afternoon when we celebrated the life of longtime FUS member Larry Salzman. The lovely flowers here are from that particular memorial service. We had over 300 people in this room yesterday afternoon, so thanks to the volunteers and the staff for making everything perfect, I think, and it was a lovely celebration of a man who loved music and art. Thank you all for joining in. A memorial service for longtime FUS accompanist Eileen Reagan will be held on Saturday, November the 5th at 11 a.m. at the Cremation Society of Minnesota. That is in Edina, and Rev. Kelly Clement will be the officiate. And you the vote, as she mentioned, some of our erstwhile folk went yesterday to the post office and delivered four boxes of you the vote letters. Not bad, folks, and you can see how the mail person is very happy to get such a so much work to do. All right. Also, one other thing. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And remember what Rev. Kelly had to say. Great work. And a Halloween birthday. Now, we don't announce everyone's birthday. You have to cross a magic number to be able to get that honor. But Ruth Agar she is 96 tomorrow. Ruth. Woo! Yay! Yeah. Ruth has more energy than I do, and she does have a few decades on me. So way to go, Ruth. Keep going. Do remember that we have a card basket downstairs so that you can send cards for people that we mentioned, a little thought their way. Now we take a few moments to reflect on our world and those who work to comfort and heal the suffering, and for those who work for justice.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
And now, for our time for all ages, we will be sharing tick with you. Some of you remember I have talked before about the missing link between land and sea animals, and we decided that tick makes a very good humanist, as a matter of fact. And yes, he will soon be appearing on TikTok so that we have a tick-tock tick.
Hello, I'm Tick, the missing link. All things considered, it's not too bad being the missing link between sea and land creatures. You know what's really scary? Running up against one of those conundrums. What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? Why do I think this or that is right or wrong? Where do I get those thoughts from? Am I thinking for myself, or am I just doing what some relative or other would want me to do? Maybe you're a parent, wondering, am I trying to teach my child what I think is right, or am I trying to teach my child to make their own choices? How do you know that you are thinking for yourself? How do you know that what you are thinking for yourself actually reflects your values? Back in my day, growing legs was kind of a no-brainer. Nowadays, what to do next can be a little tricky. Join me for ways to live on land.
Well, we have a new song to sing out the children. It's Be the Change, and the words will be right up here. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you.
I know that the title of my talk today, Yellow Dog Doubters, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As you probably know, the term yellow dog Democrat was coined long ago to describe voters of the old solid South, people who would vote for a yellow dog if the dog happened to be on the Democratic ticket. But in the past weeks, I've been attempting to define liberalism as a way of looking at assumptions that often go unexamined. Just what is a liberal tree hugger? Just what is a bleeding heart liberal? Just what kind of knee does a knee-jerk liberal jerk? These are not easy questions. I hope you agree after I've been talking about it for 3 weeks. The list does go on. So I've been considering what a liberal is and what's liberal about being liberal. Unitarian Universalists are sometimes sort of derisively called the praying wing of the Democratic Party. Well, as humanists, we don't do too much praying around here, as you may have noticed. So what is it that we are doing? Perhaps we are being yellow dog doubters. And perhaps that's a fine thing to be. I suppose you could almost say that humanists doubt everything except doubt, at least in our ideal form. But that's not quite right either. Socrates taught us a centrally important thing. The first problem of knowledge is the problem of self-knowledge, as Amos mentioned earlier. Knowing thyself is a very tough hill to climb. Ideally, both philosophy and religion begin in doubt. What do I really know, and why do I think I really know that, as Tick mentioned. In philosophy and theology, that's called epistemology, and we'll talk a little more about that term in a bit. Our theme for the month of October has been courage. I've been talking about what being liberal means because I think the most courageous position in our society, whether we're talking about philosophy or religion or politics, is a position open to the old-fashioned liberal values of tolerance of difference and equity in opportunity. Tolerance of difference and equity in opportunity. As I discussed last Sunday, I believe that democracy, whether that be democracy in our congregation, in our city, state, nation, democracy can only thrive in a liberal space where people stay open to differing ideas and stay open to compromise. And that is the place for a yellow dog doubter. A recent poll revealed that 71% of Americans said that democracy is at risk. Yet, only 7% identified that as a top problem facing the nation. Now, I agree with the 71% of Americans who say that democracy is at risk, yet I also see the weakening of democracy as one of our top problems. Why? Because democracy is the mechanism by which we work out ways to embrace and even encourage divergent views. If everyone is willing to unquestioningly vote for whatever yellow dog goes on the ballot in any particular column, that's not democracy. That's not liberalism. That's not talking out ways to solve political and social problems. Keith Raymond Harris is a postdoc research fellow in philosophy at Ruhr University in Bochum. He specializes in applied epistemology and metaphysics. Now, why didn't I think of that for a PhD, right? His research at the moment centers around conspiracy theories. For example, a recent article of his is titled Real Fakes, the Epistemology of Online Misinformation. As I mentioned earlier, epistemology is a term for how we know what we know and why we think what we think and how we think we know what we think we know. Dr. Harris points out that the gut is more convincing than the head. We probably already knew that. So even if someone doesn't buy a conspiracy theory, the mere fact of knowing it can influence your behavior. The idea rejected by the conscious mind just lodges somewhere in there, and you begin to have your own doubts. His example is the 2020 election here in the United States. Fact is, most Americans don't buy the big lie that the election was stolen. However, the mere existence of the conspiracy theory is swaying many Americans to have some doubts concerning the integrity of the U.S. voting system, and therefore, efforts to fix voting are seen by many people as a good idea, despite the fact that many of those efforts are politically motivated to gain advantage for a particular side, as you've seen in the news. Just as advertising often hints, without being explicit about, oh, this product will make you sexy, well, hearing a conspiracy theory introduces that little bit of something into the mind. The same thing has occurred with the anti-vaccination movement. Some believe the conspiracy theories, but most people don't. But enough confusion has been created that it affects the vast middle of people making decisions about vaccinations. So Dr. Harris writes this: even one who is confident that there are means to distinguish between real and fake science may regard the work that would be required to do so as unacceptably costly. In this way, awareness of the threat of fakes may subtly discourage would-be knowers. There's just too much to think about. The lesson is clear. If a person is already oriented toward believing a set of propositions, then that person is predisposed to believing information that supports the suspicion. Even if the information is false, the mere existence of the information adds to a pre-existent belief. Furthermore, even those who do not buy a conspiracy often have a nagging gut-level feeling, a kind of queasiness about things, if you will. Dr. Harris's research also shows another problem with the information deluge that we live in nowadays. It's difficult to avoid getting tired and giving up. We just say, let the fire hose spew, I am out of here. Recently, an article titled in the online magazine SciPost caught my attention. It said, new research has uncovered a psychological mechanism that underlies fanaticism. Oh, I said, I've got to read about that. Well, regarding fanaticism, researchers are studying what they term discordant knowing. Discordant knowing. This sort of knowing is made up of what the researchers are calling felt knowledge. Gut, right? Felt knowledge. Being sure about an opinion or a viewpoint. I'm so sure, I just know that's true. When that felt knowledge runs up against a perceived opposition, right? Perceiving one's claim as being generally opposed by other people, that leads to anger and fanaticism. That explains a lot about the constant messages saying that Christianity is under threat. There's always a war on Christmas. Well, guess what? That is a gut-level reaction. The article goes on. Some studies propose that people adopt such isolating behavior in an effort to satiate desires for certainty, control, and uniqueness. Desires for certainty, control, and uniqueness. Now think about those three words: certainty, control, and uniqueness. And lest we forget our Yalla Dog doubter role, we have the New Humanist magazine out there that asks a very skeptical question: is psychology the superstition of our age? Could be. Is psychology the superstition of our age? I want to think about that. Yes, there's a cost to being a yellow dog skeptic, doubting everything except for doubt. It costs you in time, mental effort, and some emotionality around that. And yes, Skepticism makes everybody tired of listening to you as well. But notice the list: certainty, control, uniqueness. And think a moment about how those contribute to that discordant knowing through felt knowledge that adds up to fanaticism. Because despite the jargon, we've all been there. We know what it's like and what it means to want certainty. Who doesn't? Control? Who doesn't? Uniqueness? After all, those are very human things to want. It's kind of human nature, which is why these can so easily be manipulated by those who are thinking about doing some manipulation. Yet, I do see a difference in the three words that I mentioned in terms of how we perceive those. So I'll start with unique. There's unique, and then there's unique. We all know that Americans have a uniqueness problem. We are taught the gospel of individualism from the cradle. The cowboy, the lone wolf, the vigilante. Many Americans suffer from what I'll call terminal uniqueness. The noir detective author Raymond Chandler sums it up, I think, what the individualist dream is all about. Very famous passage from the early 1940s. Down these mean streets a man must go who is not himself mean, who is neither tarnished nor afraid. He is the hero. He is everything. He must be a complete man and a common man and an unusual man. He must be, to use a rather weathered phrase, a man of honor, by instinct, by inevitability, without thought of it, and certainly without saying it. Got to be quiet, guys, right? He must be the best man in his world and a good enough man for any world. Okay, yes, Humphrey Bogart. Bogarting a cigarette in one hand and a pistol in the other one. Sure, Raymond Chandler's work is still great fun. But it is problematic in terms of this individualism problem. It's everywhere. And yes, the cowboy, the lone wolf, the vigilante, and yes, it's sexist, patriarchal, and full of terminal uniqueness, I would say. An angry grasping after control. You can see that right there. An angry grasping after certainty. And decades after Raymond Chandler was writing, we see that the individualist trope remains in American culture. And believe it or not, it's even been used to sell cigarettes. Terminal uniqueness is used to sell mass-marketed products. And yes, Robin, you can smoke too when you get big enough, right? There it is. Certainty and control. Terminal uniqueness. How much of the current election fraud allegations are about certainty and control? When you stop to think about that. Who convinced people that the elections were uncertain and out of control? And here's what I think. In our time of massive and instantaneous misinformation, skepticism is not a luxury. Being a yellow dog doubter is not a luxury for us. We are necessary. Our call is to resist authoritarianism of every kind, left, right, religious, political, whatever. That is our job as liberals. Given the fire hose of information and misinformation, we have to be willing to say, hang on, I need to think about that. And we don't hear too much about that, do we? Unitarian Universalists long ago agreed that individual conscience in matters of religion could free the tradition from creed and dogma. We're not going to ask you what you believe. Instead, we agree on how we will act communally among ourselves. We who believe in upholding the liberal tradition must articulate a working theory of communal values that's inclusive and equitable. That's one of the things we've missed ourselves on the liberal side, I think, is what are our communal values. We've trusted other aspects of ourselves, and we think you're going to treat us nicely and that kind of thing, but where is this individualism and how does it affect us, this terminal uniqueness that we Americans are so prone to? What our communal values consist of has been a cause of consternation, as a matter of fact, even a stumbling block for both retention of members and new adherents. But the terminal uniqueness, the scourge of individualism, has got to go, as does our very human reaching for certainty and control. We need to clearly articulate our communal values and willingness to let go of some sacred cows. Well, where do you go for your news? Think a moment. Which fire hose or fire hoses do you attempt to drink from? Has the term news outlet lost all of its meaning? Pew Research indicates that more and more Americans are getting their news from social media, and that those who get their news from social media are both less knowledgeable about issues and less engaged politically. It's a combination. In the publishing business, there's something called the Barnes & Noble effect. Common sense would say that exposing consumers to a large variety of books and authors would make people buy a large variety of books and authors. Well, it doesn't. Rather, consumers faced with a daunting variety of authors in that Barnes & Noble bookstore choose the authors they already know. It goes back to that certainty and control thing. You walk into a bookstore to buy a scary book. There are hundreds and hundreds of titles by hundreds and hundreds of authors. What do? You go find Stephen King and go home certain and in control that you have bought yourself a scary book. One way to survive the information deluge hitting us in terms of the news is to stick with what you know. So, much like the Barnes & Noble effect. New York Times, yay, right? But then the algorithms go to work when I get online and read my New York Times. They know I'm a New York Times reader. So what are you if you're a New York Times reader? You probably have some education. You're probably liberal. You're probably a professional or retired of some sort. You live in an urban area, very likely. And, your income range is thus and so. And suddenly, we know a whole lot about you because of that. You probably shop at Target. And you probably buy green products as well. We know that having a membership at Costco versus having a membership at Sam's Club is a strong indicator of your politics. We know that, and the algorithms know that. And this goes on and on and on, as you know. And then, just like that, you've entered an echo chamber, haven't you? The echo chamber in which all your desires are affordable with a payment plan, and all your beliefs and biases and prejudices are suddenly reinforced. And in that algorithmic echo chamber, sticking resolutely and irrevocably to your current beliefs is the easiest thing to do. I'm just not going to be moved. I'm unique. You're certain. You're in control. Oh, and then you learn that everything about you is under attack, right? OMG, I'm under attack. And then someone says, but wait, I know how you should vote. I've got this yellow dog for you. Looky there. There's the solution. It's just what you've been waiting for. I don't think I'm exaggerating to say that differentiating the true from the false has never in human history been more difficult or more important than it is right now. I don't think I'm exaggerating because never before have human beings lived in a constant deluge of information, noise, and misinformation. Too easily, any human virtue can become a dogmatism, and it can become unconsidered and inconsiderate. Knowing thyself is one tough hill to climb. Who am I in this algorithmic echo chamber? It's not easy. What do I really know, and why do I really think I know what I think I know? Thinking for yourself. It's difficult. It's hard won. It begins in the courage to doubt everything.
All right, so please stand as you wish, and we will be singing number 155 from the Gray Songbook, Circle Round for Freedom, and we'll sing it through twice. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for release. Circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Please be seated and repeat with me, please, our extinguishing the chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. Amazing, just amazing almost. Thank you so much for sharing your talent. Go out into the world, be fearless, ask questions, hold on to what is good. Strengthen the weak, comfort the fearful, serve the suffering, do what makes you come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit. So may it be.